Hey everybody, how's it going? Edwin back again for Strictly Comics, and I am doing a modern comic book review today. That's right. There were a lot of books that came out this week, and there were quite a few of them that had my interest, so I decided, you know what? What the heck? Let's go ahead and do a couple of comic book reviews. The comic book that I will be reviewing today is called The Dark and Bloody, issue number one. And this is by Vertigo Comics, aka DC Comics, kind of DC's darker side a little bit. And the writer is Shawn Aldridge. I've never heard of him before. And the artist is Scott Godlewiski. And let's go ahead and get into this and talk just a little bit about it. I'm going to let you guys know ahead of time that I'm going to disclose just about everything that this book consisted of. So there's going to be spoilers all throughout. If you have no interest in having the book spoiled for you, you might want to go ahead and just shut this off, because I'm pretty much going to talk about the book in its entirety. The comic book opens up with a flashback of a kid by the name of Iris Gentry. And this is Iris right here as a little kid who seems to be our main character. The scene opens up with Gentry being sent by his dad to drown 6 puppies. And we see right here, on that first page, you see this yip, 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 yip down here. And then the very next pages, we see Iris drowning the puppies. The reason behind this is because their coonhound got pregnant by a coyote, and they live in the sticks, so they don't really have the resources or the money or the means to take care of 6 extra dogs. So Gentry's dad sends him to go kill the rest of the puppies. Shortly after that, we see Iris 12 years later in Iraq, in the Middle East, which is 2004, where he talks about seeing and being around more death. And that only consisted of maybe a couple of panels. Well, actually, yeah, just a couple of pages. And then we're taken back to his hometown in Kentucky, where he's making moonshine for him and his friends, because they live in a dry county. Right after that, we're introduced to Gentry's wife, Sarah. We get to see her. We see his friends. They were high school sweethearts, and then like a year later, they ended up getting pregnant. And so they have a son who we're also introduced to in this comic book. His name is Shiloh. We then go to Gentry's friends who are on their way back home from buying the moonshine. And they notice something in the middle of the road, but it's hard for them to see because they've been drinking and it's at nighttime. But they end up hitting the object, totaling their vehicle. The object at first, it looks like a tree, but then after the impact, we see like a hairy arm reach through and pull the driver out. Up there on my top right. And then you see like a partial shadow figure with wings. It ends up killing the passenger and then eventually the driver. So we don't get to see a whole lot of this figure of this creature. It just teases at it, which is fine, because it draws curiosity out of you. It draws interest out of the reader. The next day, the police show up investigating the accident at Gentry's house, and they question him because the officer does mention that he believes that the accident was caused by DUI. And the officer is familiar with Gentry because he was on the force, if I'm not mistaken, with his dad. So he knows kind of that Gentry kind of makes this alcohol in secret and whether it be for hobby, extra income, whatever. But he kind of has left Gentry alone a little bit because of his relationship with his dad on the force. The officer does mention, though, that there were no bodies found at the accident, only a couple of black feathers. Once the officer leaves, Gentry and his wife have some words with each other because she's pregnant with their second child, and she, obviously can't do this by herself or anything like that. So she doesn't want any problems or any issues to come to their family. We're also introduced to Shiloh's new friend, Aya, Ayah, who is kind of a mystery here. She's also described as not having any parents either. So in conclusion of the story, because this was a very fast read, we see Aya looking through a window at a possum with black feathers in her hand covered in blood. And then in the last page, we see an old bearded man looking to his possum and saying that the devils come to dance in the holler, which is like a nickname for the small town that they live in. That was pretty much it. My thoughts are the comic book was really good. It reminded me a lot of Nailbiter, and this was before I noticed the little quote at the top by Joshua Williamson, who says the same thing, who's actually the co-creator and writer of Nailbiter. He says the exact same thing. So I actually enjoyed Nailbiter quite a bit, and I found this to be very enjoyable as well. It had that mystery that makes you question what the heck is going on. It also does a good job with character development and drawing interest to the characters themselves. While it was a quick read, I thought the writing was done well. The pacing seemed good in my opinion. The artwork was good by Godlewiski. Is it Godlewiski? Godlewiski. And it had some really strong moments. For instance, this was probably the strongest panel in my opinion. Right there at the bottom here, where my pinky is, I felt was a very strong panel. When the cops peel off and his wife slams the door on him, you just see Gentry standing there in the middle of the dirt road by himself, kind of in the dust, while deep in his thoughts. My only gripe at the moment with this comic book is that I thought the ending was a little weak. It didn't leave you with a cliffhanger, in my opinion, and the last page with the old man it didn't leave me with my jaw dropped or anything like that. I will pick up issue number 2, though, because I do have interest in Gentry, and I want to see where this story goes, because it does leave you with some questions. It is a $3.99 comic book, but there is 22 pages. It probably won't last long. I'm pretty sure eventually, as the popularity rises, if it does, it'll drop down to 20 pages. But for now, I give this comic book a rating of a 4.5 out of 5. Very, very strong comic book. Very much looking forward to getting issue number 2. And yeah, so let me know what you guys think. If you've read this, please make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. I do want to hear what other people's thoughts are about this book, if anybody else picked it up. It is kind of has kind of an independent feel to it, so you don't have that superhero type of story with this comic book. It's more of a murder mystery, which is good for those who like that type of genre. But that's it. I want to thank you guys for checking out this comic book review. As always, keep God first in your life. Enjoy your comic books, and God bless you guys. I'm out of here.